Everybody, it's good to see everybody here. Let's call the October 10th, 2023 Lee County Charter Review Commission meeting to order. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and then we'll get going from there. Randy, if you would.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. No hearing aids. All right, tonight we're going to start with public comments. I see a lot of people attending here. It's great to see all of you guys. If you're going to go up to the podium and talk, we'd like to have you fill out a card. If you want one and need one, there's a bunch of them up here in the corner. That way we can keep track of everybody that's testifying, and we know what they're saying. So I'm going to take them in no particular order, just the order I have them up here. Let's start with Robert Ashenfelder. Just so everybody knows, 5 minutes, please. Limit of 5 minutes.
Good evening, Robert Ashenfelder. I represent the village of Estero in Lee County, and I wanted to talk to you tonight further about the proposal regarding annexation that you all are considering. So when we talked last time, and I spoke with you last time and some of the other folks, we talked about some of the issues of the fact that this being voluntary annexation, that the proposal as written really takes away the ability of a private property owner to decide in what municipality he or she wishes to preside or to have their property be in. And so, perhaps others will talk about that again tonight, but I wanted to use the time this evening to talk a bit more with you about what this proposal is supposedly going to resolve versus tools that are already in the toolbox that go beyond giving the Board of County Commissioners the blanket authority with no standards to just say no to a voluntary annexation. And so I wanted to talk about, and hopefully your staff has provided you a copy as well since last time, but Florida Statute 171.203, if you all don't have that, please look it up.
Can I ask you to try to speak closer to the mic?
Sure.
If you don't mind.
Sure. Sorry about that. Is that better?
That's fine. Is that better, Kevin?
All right, so wanted to talk about Florida Statute 171.203, and it's a statute that effectively has been on the books for a while, and it allows a county to initiate a process with a municipality and or a special district. And let's go over a few of the provisions with you. A county desiring to enter into an interlocal service boundary agreement shall commence the negotiation process by adopting and initiating resolution. The initiating resolution must identify an unincorporated area or incorporated area or both to be discussed and the issues to be negotiated. The identified area must be specified in the initiating resolution by the descriptive exhibits that it includes but need not be limited to a map or legal description of the designated area. The initiating resolution of an initiating county must designate one or more invited municipalities. So the county invites one or more municipalities to talk. Then the statute says that the one or more municipalities have 60 days to do their own resolution to agree to participate. Then the statute says that a municipality within the county which is not invited may request participation. So even if the county's invite leaves out a municipality, that municipality can say, we want to talk as well. Then the statute says an interlocal service boundary agreement may address any issue concerning service delivery, fiscal responsibilities, or boundary adjustment. The agreement may include, but need not be limited to, provisions that identify a municipal service area, identify an unincorporated service area, and the statute also says that in order to, it can identify the local government responsible for the delivery of funding of the following services within a municipal service area: public safety, fire emergency rescue, water and wastewater, road ownership, construction and maintenance, conservation parks and recreation, and stormwater management or drainage. And finally, in relevant part, subsection 8 says, in order to ensure that the health and welfare of the residents affected by annexation will be protected, all fire and emergency medical services shall be provided by the existing provider of fire and emergency medical service to an annexed area and remain part of the existing municipal service taxing unit or special district unless the county and annexing municipality reach an agreement through interlocal agreement or other legal sufficient means as to who shall provide these emergency services. So in sum, what I'm trying to convey to you is that it's been represented to you all that there's a problem about coordination of these services, and that the only way that that problem can be fixed is by saying that the county commission gets to block all voluntary annexations into a municipality, regardless of how small or large the parcel is, regardless of what its current or future use is going to be. And I just submit to you as a lawyer that's a very inartful way to deal with something that you already have a Florida statute, that the county already has a Florida statute to deal with, if it would just utilize that process. So if there's alternative motives or whatever that aren't really put on the table, obviously I can't speak to those, but if the motive is, as has been stated, that we all need to cooperate more with respect to infrastructure and who pays for infrastructure and who provides it, those tools are already existing.
Wrap it up.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. I appreciate your time.
Mayor Gunter.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you briefly here this morning, or this afternoon, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say that, I know that you guys have been having discussions on voluntary annexations, and I know that, some of the individuals in the county want to go a different direction. I did bring a copy today of a resolution that our city council had passed about a week ago, where we oppose any change from how we have been doing business in this county for many, many years. I understand some of the complexities when you talk about annexation. Voluntary annexation, for me, is personal property rights. I'm a very strong supporter of personal property rights, and also a supporter of home rule. And I think that the way that we've been doing business has been working. If you look, the 67 counties in our state, there's only 3 counties that have a program that you've been speaking about possibly going in a different direction. So that tells me that it's working in 64 other counties and has been fine. I will tell you that one of the things that maybe set us apart in our city, maybe from the other municipalities, we understand, when you have the fire districts involved, we also have the Pine Island, Greater Pine Island Water District that has some lines that go to some parcels in our city that has been annexed. And we understand that they'll have a loss of revenue. We know the fire district will have a loss of revenue. So what we've done is we've been proactive in our approach. We have recently, the last 2 or 3 weeks, have signed an agreement with the Matt Lachey Fire District. So when we have properties that are annexed into the city, that we make sure that the funding is still there for them as per the agreement. And we make sure that, we're good neighbors. So we understand that some of the water districts and some of the fire districts, they rely on that funding. So what we have done, we've recognized that, and we've made sure that we do have an agreement with the fire district, and we are in the process with the Greater Pine Island Water District to come up with a very similar interlocal agreement to make sure that they can stay whole in their funding. You know, I think that it's very important that we let the property owners make the decision exactly which either the county or any municipality that they should be able to be served in. I know for us, a lot of times it comes, they come to the city because we can either provide a more adequate water service. Say if they're building a larger project that may be 3 and 4 stories, the water pressure just isn't there at the county level or with the Greater Pine Island Water District. And the same with the Matlacha Fire Department. You know, their equipment can only go so high. You know, we can accommodate a 10 or 12-story building. So a lot of times it's because of that, insurance purposes, that they want to annex into the city. But we are trying to be proactive with those entities, knowing that there could be a loss of revenue, and coming up with an agreement with them. You know, for me personally, I support voluntary annexation. I would never support involuntary annexation unless it was a last resort, you know, with a highway or something like that. But we typically haven't had that in Cape Coral. So the voluntary annexation, the Florida statute's clear. It's working in 64 other counties, and I would ask this board to continue in the same path that we have been for many years. I did bring a copy, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to go into a resolution. I did bring 12 copies tonight. I'll leave it with the chair. I'd ask that you hand it out to the members. They can take a look at it. It's fairly self-explanatory, and I appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor McLean.
Good evening. My name is John McLean. I'm the mayor of the village of Estero, and I come before you this evening with the full support of our council. I believe each of you received a copy of a resolution that the village of Estero passed at our last meeting, which was last week, in which we are opposing the amending of the county charter in any way which would impede the free right of property owners to voluntarily annex into a municipality. Additionally, the resolution opposes any charter language which would allow county commissioners to arbitrarily decide if a voluntary annexation may occur. Our rationale for this resolution is based on existing Florida statutes that provide the owners of real property which is contiguous to a municipality to petition for annexation. It's unclear how the voluntary annexation of a home or a business or vacant land could possibly have substantial countywide infrastructure impact. If there is such a situation where there is an infrastructure concern, Florida Statute 171-203, which I won't read for you, already authorizes county commissioners to initiate a collaborative process with some or all of the municipalities to develop agreements as to who will be responsible for providing for public welfare, fire, police, and the like. Each of the mayors, 3 of us are here this evening, and their staffs have an ongoing dialogue and cooperative spirit with their county counterparts to resolve issues impacting the quality of life that exists throughout all of Lee County. And this includes an individual's right to voluntary annexation. Are there any hiccups in these discussions? Like any discussion, there are at times. But as an example of how we can cooperatively work together, I bring before you this evening the task force that I'm on, and all the mayors and public officials, the fire chiefs, the police, and the like. It's the hurricane resiliency effort that's going on in Lee County. It involves $1.1 billion of where we're all sitting around the table and talking through the issues that each community has, what Lee County has, and we're working cooperatively on a $1 billion distribution of federal money to make that happen. I think we're making good progress on that. It's not completed yet, but there's a lot of effort going in there, and I see some great cooperation. When I look at that, I say, can that same kind of cooperation happen if an annexation, voluntary annexation, were to occur? So I ask each of you this evening just to evaluate the value and the need for this proposed county change. We need to continue to work together, discuss our issues, and create solutions. Thank you for your time and consideration this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Anderson.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members. For the record, Kevin Anderson, Mayor of the City of Fort Myers. What I want to touch upon real quickly and briefly is most of the voluntary annexation that occurs revolves around housing developments, whether they be multifamily or single-family complexes. We all know that in Lee County we are struggling with housing. The demand for housing far exceeds the supply. This has caused some serious problems in this county, and that rents are through the roof. And this doesn't only affect low-income families, but more importantly, it affects essential workers, our workforce, our police officers, our nurses, our teachers, the people who wait on us in restaurants, the people who fix the power lines when they go down. All of these essential workers are affected by the cost of living and the cost of housing in Lee County. And I suggest to you that by passing this, you will severely impact the ability to continue to increase the housing supply and provide housing, much needed housing. This is not only a quality of life issue, but it's an economic development issue. We as a county, all the cities included, we're trying to attract good business to Lee County. Businesses that provide services and higher than normal paying jobs. I suggest they will not want to come here if their employees cannot afford to live here. So this is about housing. Now, our council as well has passed the resolution, and I'd like to read the title into the record. Resolution number 2023-65, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Fort Myers, Florida, opposing any amendments to the Charter of Lee County, Florida, which would modify, change, or mandate additional requirements for voluntary annexation by a city, and notifying the Lee County Charter Review Commission that the City of Fort Myers adamantly opposes any such proposal to the voluntary annexation provision of the county charter, and urging the Board of County Commissioners of Lee County, Florida, to deny such proposal and providing an effective date. And this is signed in the affirmative by Councilmember representing Ward 1, Teresa Watkins Brown, Councilmember representing Ward 2, Johnny Streets, Councilmember representing Ward 3, Carolyn Watson, Councilmember representing Ward 4, Liston Bochette, Councilmember representing Ward 5, Fred Burson, Councilmember representing Ward 6, Darla Bonk, and myself, Kevin Anderson, representing as the mayor. I strongly urge you, please give this great consideration and understand that the impact this will have on the future growth of Lee County and our ability to provide housing, much needed housing, to our workforce. Thank you. And Mr. Chair, I will leave you with a copy of this.
Thank you, Mayor. Our next speaker is Carolyn Moore.
Good afternoon, I'm Carolyn Moore. I'm wanting to address the issue of voting rights in Lee County. In 1998-99, I went to vote. I was prohibited from voting.
Carolyn, can you get a little bit closer to the mic?
Sorry.
give her an extra.
Thank you. As I stated, I was prohibited from voting, although I was on the roll. I had confirmed with the supervisor of election my polling site before I went there. I gave my driver's license with my correct address, and I was asked for a charge card. It was the same year state troopers stood on the highway between Blountstown to Tallahassee area to keep people from voting. So thus, in reviewing the census for Lee County, it appears that the African American, Haitians, Latino, and Hispanic votes are diluted. So what I'm asking this committee to do is to make a recommendation to the commissioners that we look at districts, boundaries, whatever you wish to call them, so that these voices can be heard. I have been following, I think that's mine. I have been following the Supreme Court rulings in various cases around the country, and on June 8th, the Supreme Court ruled that Alabama discriminated against black voters and violated Section 2 of the Voters' Act of 1965. They primarily relied on the case of Thornburg versus Jingles that determined a state could typically draw a majority-minority district if three conditions were met. And those were, one, the racial minority can be a majority in a reasonably drawn district. Two, if the racial minority is politically cohesive, meaning that its members tend to vote together for the same candidates. And three, if the racial minorities face block voting by a racial majority that tends to defeat the racial majority candidate of choice. Justice Roberts stated that when an area is not equally open, that minority voters face voting blocks or along racial line, causing a substantial racial discrimination, and that states or counties shouldn't let race be a primary factor in deciding how to draw boundaries, but it should be a consideration. There was a court case with the NAACP in Pinellas County that they redrew their lines to allow our minority voters an opportunity to elect officials who were from their area. And I look at Alva, and Alva has a water issue. I have never heard of anyone in this county addressing the water issue for Alva, and that's because I think Alva is not properly represented, and those individuals need to have a representative from their community who understands their issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gene Rogers.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for hearing me this evening. My name is Gene Rogers. I serve as the fire chief for the South Trail Fire District. Our position on this is that we fully support the amendment language that has been offered by Commissioner Cecil Pendergrass and the spirit of the language and concerning voluntary annexations, in that it gives a platform or a venue for a productive conversation to happen about those things. I'm here also. I know you've all gotten letters of support from many of the fire districts. I speak on behalf of the South Trail Fire District, the Pine Island Fire District, the North Fort Myers Fire District, and in full disclosure, later this week, Tice Fire District has their board meeting, and we fully anticipate them supporting this as well and sending a letter to that effect. As far as the South Trail Fire District and the Board of Commissioners and our legal counsel there, we do fully support also the interlocal service boundary agreement concept, because we feel that the spirit of what Commissioner Pendergrass has offered is exactly what the interlocal service boundary agreement would foster. Sadly, it's very encouraging to hear that the Mayor of Cape Coral, they are widening their view and realizing that when we invest money, infrastructure, capital funding to build fire stations that have 30, 40-year lifespans, getting paid for 4 years for a voluntary annexation, and then that funding ending, those residents probably don't leave that area and after that 4 years, and then we are still left to burden to fund those emergency responses and non-emergency responses. It was very encouraging to hear the mayor of Cape Coral say that they're taking that stance. Sadly, the city of Fort Myers has not, and we border them largely. So I can, if you ever want to contact me personally, I can tell you multiple stories of how it hasn't gone right, and I believe that the language offered by the county commissioner is simply attempting to bring that to the forefront and allow a productive discussion. Some annexations do make sense. They absolutely do. Some don't. And so what that would do is give a productive, meaningful platform for those discussions to take place. And that's really the point of my being here tonight. So we remain open to questions, comments, anytime, any place. Come in, schedule an appointment. We'll be glad to show you, talk to you, take you out to some of these places where these situations really happen in real life. And who ends up paying the price is the citizenry who, the greater part of Lee County, who really, quite honestly, don't care where the boundary lines are. So, and nor should we. So thanks for hearing me, and thank you.
Thank you, sir. Robert McDonald.
Mr. Chairman, Board, I'm Robert McDonald. I'm the Secretary Treasurer for South Trail Fire Rescue District. I just want to piggyback on the Chief. I also want to commend the Cape Coral municipality for the work that they've done, taking into consideration their neighbors and partners in the Pine Island Fire District. I really think all the mayors here have highlighted something of reality, is the quality of life of everyone in the county. Well, as we look at these annexations, while it increases the quality of life and gives the city's funding, it's impacting our residents in the fire district negatively. So the funding goes away from the district, it goes into the city, the taxable, the ratables. And you know, in the law, it says that the services get converted over. Well, that's great for the properties that were annexed. The properties that surround it are still residents of the county that require the fire district for their services. So now you're putting a burden on those residents. Eventually, the top line of our fire districts runs out as far as tax ratables in the business and the businesses. So we struggle to deliver the services at the level that we're doing it today for the residents who really, as the chief said, they really don't care who comes to their call. They care that they're getting the services. So it's the county residents that end up, bearing the brunt, and we struggle to maintain our level of services as far as the taxable income goes for our district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. That is all the cards I have. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak tonight on the issues? Anybody? Okay. Let's take it back. We're going to do questions now or at the end of the board? All right, let's bring it back to the board. Anybody have any questions, thoughts, comments? No.
It's clear to me that from the presentations we've gotten in writing from the cities, the municipalities, from the mayors that have spoken here this evening, and it's clear also to me that the information that we've received from the special districts and also my own personal knowledge of what has occurred between Cape Coral and Pine Island, that currently we have winners and losers. That shouldn't be. If we're all going to be serving the citizens of the county, we shouldn't be having winners and losers on bringing services to the people. And here, I'm glad to hear that Cape Coral has finally stepped forward, a little late to the game, but better late than never, The time to have done the discussions with Pine Island would have been when the annexation was first proposed. But there was no discussion whatsoever with the fire district or the water company, and so we can never recover those costs. I'm a ratepayer on Pine Island, and I'm going to be paying more money. Matter of fact, they just increased, we have the highest fire assessment of any fire district in Lee County. And they just voted the fire board for an 18.9% increase in our assessments that we have to pay because of some of this lost revenue where these properties have been annexed. To me, we need an annexation policy that makes sense to everybody. I think the people of Lee County need an opportunity to vote whether they want to see a responsible government or whether they want to see the haphazard pattern that we see today in terms of annexation, where we just go out and annex a parcel that's being served by infrastructure from 2 different districts, and it doesn't matter at all, and then you have a limited period of time of 4 years is all you can receive revenues after the annexation takes place, and then you no longer get any additional revenues. Pine Island built a pumping station in almost at the corner of Veterans and Pine Island Road. That cost over $5 million that has to be paid for. It was bonded. And so now that plant, because of some of the areas that have been annexed into Cape Coral without consideration for how that would impact our infrastructure, only about half or 40 or 50% of that pumping station is being utilized currently because we've lost all those areas to annexation and had no input. We also had attempts made by Cape Coral to annex properties that weren't even contiguous to the city, and they weren't even served by any infrastructure in the city. And we had to put up the money out of our pocket to take them to court, and we won. And that annexation did not take place. So we shouldn't have to be doing that. We shouldn't be having to put the burden on the taxpayers for these annexations that occurred. Just like when the city of Fort Myers wanted to go out at the northeast corner of Tree Line in Daniels, they have no water out there to serve a large multifamily development. And so they go to the county. Can you give us water to serve this multifamily development? Well, see, you have to take into account, and I think if this committee would give the people the opportunity to vote on it, I think that you would see that the majority of people in this county want responsible government. They want to see policies where the cities work together with the counties for the benefit of all of us. And we're not seeing that today. Thank you.
Thank you, Noel. Anybody else have any comments, questions, thoughts at this time?
What process question? What's the process here? Are we discussing this? Are we putting this to a vote tonight?
We're discussing it right now. As chair, I'm going to suggest that we not vote tonight. We're missing actually 3 members, 1 that's resigned and 2 that are absent tonight. Plus, we still have a number of months left before we get to the end of our commission and tenure. I think that there's other people out there that we're going to want to hear from. So I'm going to suggest that we're just taking thoughts and questions and testimony tonight, and that we're going to move it forward to next month's agenda. Unless somebody has some major objections.
That's a great idea.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments on the issue we're talking about, which is voluntary annexation? No? Andrew?
If I may ask, could we schedule a vote just so the members are aware when that vote will occur? There's a lot of interested parties. I think probably expected a vote last month. It didn't happen. Attended this month expecting a vote with it to not happen. Just so that all the members at this point know, if you intend to vote, you need to be present at this meeting. And then at that point, we can move forward one way or the other with this language. I just don't want to see it get dragged on month to month with just this discussion happening and no action.
Okay. Anybody have any thoughts or questions?
I would support that.
Kevin? Okay. Anybody else?
I think that's fine, I agree with that.
Any thoughts on when? I might suggest that we probably want to wait till after the first of the year, which gives us a couple more meetings to have people attend and get the notice out to everybody.
It seems to me that a vote up or down on moving forward with it, and then any changes that would want to happen to the language, time would be the limiting factor. So the sooner we could vote up or down, because I think there's even been conversation from those in support of the idea that there may be some concerns with the exact language that's presented, and I'd want to make sure we give the county attorneys plenty of time to make sure that we can get something that would be agreeable if it was to go forward.
Thanks, sir. Ron, you were...
Well, I'm agreeing with Andrew there. I mean, the concept I understand both sides of it. I'm encouraged by folks saying that we're talking together and we're trying to meet, and we're trying to make something agreeable to all the parties occur. That's what we need to be doing. I don't know that this language gets us there, so I have concerns with the language we have, but I like the fact that we're having folks start to talk to each other. So I'm not sure where we get to, but I sure have concerns if we put it off too long, because we're going to run out of time. We're going to be faced with a vote, I'll make this up, a vote in January, and if it passes with the majority wanting to consider it or go forward, we're going to have a really short time to come up with language and not enough adequate time to review that. So I think we ought to move whatever vote we're going to do sooner rather than later.
Ron, Kevin?
How many more meetings do we have before we would need final language that you guys would need to work out?
Prior to the public hearing start.
Yes. So we have
How many more months?
how many more meetings?
November, December, January. And then we start the public hearings in February.
And correct me if I'm wrong, these are the last two things that are on our agenda.
As of right now, they are. Yes.
Okay, so I would support getting through the holidays and our last meeting make a final decision.
Eric?
I mentioned quite a few things last time. I just have one thing to mention here, which is the thing that I think should cover all of us. To me, there's no standard of review by the county commission about what would and would not be appropriate for them to go forward on a vote. So as I read this, my largest concern, I don't know what that standard should be. Should it be if they meet and everyone can agree on the interlocal agreements and the things that are necessary? Are they required to vote that way? Because again, there's a lack of standard to get to the point of getting either an up or down the way I'm reading it, unless I'm missing something. That's my biggest concern.
Anybody else? Richard?
Yes, sir, thank you. I mean, I would echo that comment. I mean, I think part of the question to me when we go to vote on it is what exactly are we voting on? What is the exact language? And I think some of us have expressed some thoughts about the language and what might need to be changed in order for us to support, such an amendment. And so I do think part of it is we need to maybe, if we're going to try to massage the language, do that and make those suggestions and make those changes before we get to a place where we vote, because we need to know exactly what we're voting on, as opposed to just saying, hey, in concept, I would support this or I wouldn't.
No.
Don't we have to run the language by the supervisory elections for final approval? No, we don't. Does it have, is the length of what appears on the ballot regulated?
Yes.
It's so how many words is it?
75.
75? Okay. Well, it would be helpful if we could craft something that would be just a draft of what we're going to be voting on, so that we can at least agree on the language.
So what we have done in the past, in prior charters, is you tell us what language you're looking for, and we will draft the language. You can't just say, draft this language, and that's what happens. We draft whatever you all are telling us to draft, but we've drafted based on information that we have. But it is up to you all individually and collectively to tell us what you want the language to say. And then we will draft that and bring it back to you so you can review it and say, okay, close, but how about here? We need to change this. And that's how it works. You all tell us what you want. And here you massage the language to make sure you know what you're voting.
1 second. Lisa?
I believe at our last meeting, Joe mentioned that this, the verbiage was just a starting point. I don't know if you have examples of criteria that has been used in other jurisdictions that you could share with us, or?
What was provided, it's under tab 1 of your binder. That is all that the other 3 municipalities, or sorry, counties that have provisions on this. That is their language. That's what we have to work with as far as what other counties have out there.
Andrew, 1 second.
So this proposed amendment to Article 1 is what your idea of the language should be. So we need to pretty much massage that if we're interested in changing it.
Yeah, well, again, that's kind of what we drafted as a starting point for discussion with this commission.
So we need to take this full page and massage it into 70 words?
Well, I think there's a distinction between the summary on the ballot and what there actually is. So it's the 75 word limit is for the summary on the ballot, which has to basically.
Do we have extra copies of this? We're not supposed to take this book, right? I missed the last meeting, so I didn't get this.
We can send it around. I think it's been sent around before, but we can do that again.
Okay, yeah, I need a copy.
No, 1 second, Kevin.
Trying to conceptualize what I'm trying to say in my head. Could there be language that would maybe create some kind of forum for the county and a city to meet and discuss services, fees, revenue? Is there any way we can create some kind of forum like that, other than, looks like to me, I guess an up and down vote of the county commission the only option we have?
No, it is up to you all to tell us what this is.
If you get enough votes, it goes straight to the ballot.
No, I understand. I understand that, but there clearly is an issue here on both sides.
Yes.
So, is there another way to solve this problem? I like to hear hearing what the city of Cape Coral is doing with Matt Lachey sounds, interesting, and it sounds like that works to me. Is there another way to facilitate that for the other cities as well?
I don't know what the city of Cape Coral is doing specifically. I understand that they're apparently giving them funding of some sort, but I would have to delve into that a little bit more and ask them. He left. So what I can do is reach out to the city tomorrow.
Okay.
And ask them exactly what are you doing? Is it in writing somewhere? So I can provide that to you all.
And for how long that they're providing that support?
Andrew, did you have something to say?
Yeah, my recommendation was going to be that we vote now on intent to move forward. I think that will likely pass, but just to formally do it with the understanding that at the next meeting, we'll need to start on, if you have proposed language changes, those would need to be brought forward and be present, so we can't debate those, giving us a number of months before January, we have that final language for the public hearings.
Comments on that, or Randy?
I would suggest respectfully that we reverse engineer our time frame. When do we want a final document? When do we want the county to present us with possible alternatives? And when do we want the county to present us with something to vote on? Yeah. To me, that seems like 3 meetings. I'd like to proceed with the concept of moving forward. I think then we all, at the next meeting, could hash out our differences, and then at the second meeting, which would probably be December, then we have a draft that we could finally consider, and then at the third meeting, say either the second or the third meeting, then we could actually vote on the final. I think we have to have a schedule of how we proceed rather than just toss a coin if we were gonna talk about it.
Other comments?
I agree.
Kevin, you were going to say something?
I agree with Randy.
I think the map that Randy laid out is decision today, that it leaves November, December, January for those, and that final language has to be by January as we go into public forums.
Other comments?
One other thing.
Eric?
I'm struggling with this because I don't have the knowledge. Maybe none of us really do. What I'm hearing from the attorney that spoke was that 171-203, the Florida statutes, addresses, it sounds like, nearly everything we're talking about. What it sounds like to me is that both the cities, special districts, and the county just have not followed it. That's what it sounds like to me. And I would love to understand a little better that if everything in the statute were followed, would it still be deficient to basically to deal with the situations they're talking about, and in what ways? So that's just want to put that there. That's what it sounds like to me.
I don't think that that's quite it. What the problem is in the statute itself, it's time limited. And that's where the problem comes. The amount of time that's in the statute doesn't give the district enough time to recoup the cost of the infrastructure that's being absorbed through the annexation process. That's the problem.
Right. But I think that from what I'm hearing, if I can talk, I think it's okay. That still, even if that's the case, it seems like, from what my knowledge is of the cities and the interaction with their county, that they want to take those things into account. The city of Cape Coral has indicated desire to, regardless of what laws are out there. So again, my concern is that, or my thoughts are that you could have that discussion. You're right. They could decide that we only want to pay for 4 years or 5 years, and it's a 30-year type of asset that we're talking about that needs to be funded. And perhaps that's not sufficient. But my concern is right now, it's not, that discussion is often not happening at all. And again, I don't know who's potentially negligent in that.
It's not happening until after the fact.
Yeah, and I know that happens, that has been happening, and I can see why that would be a problem for anyone that's based their asset purchases on a certain amount of population that they no longer have in their district. So I understand that. So again, I appreciate that information, that there's that 4-year time frame. But what else in that are we not doing that we should be?
Well, what I see.
Go ahead, then I will.
Is, I think it could be solved quite easily if we were able to come up with a draft that said that it's okay for you to annex this area, but you have to make the districts whole. And that's not happening, see. That's where the problem is. You're not making them whole in terms of the lost cost of the infrastructure. So just that little change right there would make all the difference in the world. And I think it would remove a lot of the opposition that special districts have to the annexation process, is they're not being made whole.
I'm going to suggest that we all, after tonight's meeting, go home and do our homework. Take November next meeting for all of us to review everything we've seen, go over what we have here, that we spend November meeting putting together a draft of what we'd like to see in language, give that to the county attorney to draft the language. And then we can vote either November or December, but not tonight, is what I would suggest.
I agree with that. I think that's a great idea.
I'd agree with that. Do you need a motion for that? So I'd make that motion
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion, we have a second. Do we have any discussion on the motion?
Point of information, on the motion, I think we said November or December. Can we firm that down to a specific set time for everybody's convenience?
December.
December? All right, so the motion is then that November is going to be a work session, we're going to work out language, December we're going to vote.
Yes.
That's your motion? We still have a second? Ron?
Just a clarification, this isn't a vote on the issue, this is a vote on the process that we're talking about. We're not saying if this passes it, we're definitely moving forward with this particular issue. We're just saying we're moving forward to consider language we can then subsequently vote on. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Correct, sir. Okay. Any other questions, comments?
But at least we have a schedule.
We have a schedule like you suggested, Randy. Yes, sir. All those in favor of the motion, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All those opposed? 1. 10 to 1. Andrew dissenting. All right, so we now have a schedule, so everybody's got their homework. I'm going to ask the county attorney to again send out to all of us what we have here in print, together with all of the communications that we've all received from the various entities and personnel, so you'll have all of that, and that you come ready to work in November to come up with appropriate language that we can give the county attorney. Marianne.
We also have the Florida Statute 171.203 language.
They will include 171.203 in the email, yes. Okay? All right, let's move on to B, which is the commission discussion on Commission of Ethics. Let's wait till the guys leave. They're going to make noise.
What, nobody wants to talk about it?
No, I'm assuming you're going to want to talk on this one.
We pick up the newspaper, and almost every day you read about this official or that official was guilty of improper management of their office. And then you read workload of the...
No, 1 second. Kevin, can you turn the microphone on? Somebody turn the mic off.
I think ours keeps coming on and off. I thought someone was tapping it.
I do, yes. Okay, yeah. There's a several hundred backlog of ethics complaints currently at the Commission on Ethics at the state level. And right now, that pretty much is what we have in Florida is the Commission on Ethics is at the state level. And so a lot of these cases that come up, like recently the city manager in Naples had a consulting contract with some people that were doing business with the city, and so he lost his job over that. And but when people have these issues come up, they don't have a place to turn to on the local level. The only place they have to turn to is at the state level in Tallahassee to file their complaints with, and then you have to wait a long period of time before there's anything that comes back from the state to you because of the backlog of cases that are currently with, I don't know what the number is, but I think I heard a number somewhere between 400 and 500 cases are backlogged currently. And so it just isn't a very efficient way for people that are concerned about improprieties that they see in government. And so to me, it only makes sense that we have a place for them to go to. We have a process. I had hoped that we could do this through the county clerk's office because the clerk's office does have different powers. And but I'm not sure that under the current powers that they have the right of subpoena. But what we heard from other counties, Palm Beach County, Broward County, is that they were not effective until they got subpoena power. And when they got subpoena power, they could get to the bottom of what was going on and really come up with an answer. And in the meantime, I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but these presentations were 8 years ago on the last Charter Commission. But it was millions of dollars that had been recovered by the Ethics Commission, and it more than offset the cost of having the commission itself. So to me, that's something we need to really take a look at, is to see how we can be more effective in managing, because we're doing billions of dollars worth of contracts. We have $1 billion that's going to be part of the relief recovery money that's going to be going to different communities. Who's going to have oversight on that money? Like, there's a group out on Pine Island, I don't want to mention the name, but they've already received grants, $100,000, and they're looking for another $500,000 grant. Who's overseeing that money where it's going to? And this is a new group. Some guys moved down from Jacksonville and started, an organization here, and then I've known people in the community that have reached out to them for help, because we have a lot of people that are hurting on Pine Island that don't have the resources for living and fixing their homes and stuff like that. And that's what it was supposed to be for. So who do they turn to find out where that money is going to and whether it's being properly dispersed to the community? So that's the reason I think we need an ethics commission, is so that if I have a concern about that organization that's getting public money, I can go to the ethics commission and say, would you take a look at, and would you check their bank records and find out where the money's going to, and see if it's going there or whether it's going to just for salaries for their employees instead of being dispersed to the community. That's just one example. There are many examples that a commission on ethics could handle, but it's essentially a place for the citizens to turn to when they see money being misspent, either with contractors. Look what happened out at the Hammond Stadium, where the company built the stadium, and we spent $75 million on renovation at the stadium here a couple of years ago, and all of a sudden the bridge collapsed out there, and so what happened with all that? We don't know about it. The people of the community don't know about it because there was no investigation into what caused the collapse. So it just goes on, things that happen in the community where we're not getting answers for.
Well, let's see if we have other people that want to comment on that. Thoughts from anybody? Kevin?
I'm happy with the county audit situation that Kevin explained in our second meeting, and what they do to, protect the public's interests. I understand the state does have a backlog. I think a lot of that is due to length of investigation, and to be honest with you, a lot of frivolous investigations they have to do. A lot of them are based off politics. I know that for a fact. So I'm very happy with the situation we have it as is, and I would not want to move forward with the county commission on ethics.
Any other comments or thoughts, Ron?
Well, I appreciate Noel's comments about a little bit different viewpoint. Noel, some of the things you talked about seem to be an oversight into almost even the purchasing process of the county, on how they're going to look at how the contracting work was done, how they're going to look at each contract. That's a level of bureaucracy I do not think we need. And that level of oversight would be completely burdensome to the entire process that we have to procure things, build things, and do things. Secondly, I went back and looked at the Palm Beach study to talk about it. The monies that they recovered were not necessarily money they recovered. They found that there were flaws in the procurement process, that things were not properly bid publicly. And had they bid publicly, they would have saved perhaps money. So it wasn't a clawback where they were going to get money back. And then lastly, I don't read the paper much because I don't get time. See, y'all thought I was going to say something. But there was a complaint filed against the sitting commissioner just recently, and it went to Tallahassee, and it got looked at very quickly. There was a process that's there, and finally, our clerk spent an enormous amount of time going over what his office does and how he's able to handle it, and opined that It's unnecessary to have a commission to do exactly what his office is empowered to do. So for those 4 reasons, I think we should nix this idea immediately.
Well, I'd like to ask Kevin, he's sitting right over there, does your office perform these functions? And do you have the right of subpoena power?
Speaking specifically to the procurement aspect, my office already has oversight of how the county bids, and that's something I've been talking about with the board and county administration over the last several months. I think where my gap comes with ethics is, Noah, you throw a bunch of stuff out. When it comes to county dollars, it's my interpretation of the statute that we, meaning the comptroller and clerk's office, has a little bit of oversight on that money. Where our authority ends is with municipalities. So if someone had an ethics complaint about someone at the municipal level, the county does not have any oversight over municipal money. That is why you have the Commission on Ethics at the state level. But I think there are hundreds of municipalities throughout the state, which cause a little bit of the backlog along with what Kevin had said. And it's important to remember that there's already a Florida statute that governs what ethics is in the county. And if you're talking about county money, my office as an inspector general can do those investigations. But if you're looking outside of county money, that is where my authority ends. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
If anyone has any, does anyone else? I make a motion to not move forward with this.
Second.
So we have a motion, we have a second, a further discussion on the motion. All those in favor of the motion, which is not moving forward, please raise your hands.
Aye.
Opposed? 1. Okay, the only other thing that I'm going to add to the agenda tonight is we need to discuss scheduling outside meetings and when. Okay, thank you. Let's do this one, then we have one other issue that the county attorney reminded me of. Thoughts on when or where? Anything from the county attorney? Where? Kevin.
Last time you guys, 8 years ago, they were all at high schools?
Yes.
And they were around the county and separate in different areas?
Yes.
Okay, so I feel like that would work.
I will try. I can't promise the schools.
Are libraries better?
Libraries and rec centers are actually pretty good.
I think if we need a motion to staff to handle that, I think that would be, okay. I think it'd be better for you all to handle that.
It'll probably begin in February, and based on the charter, they will be held pursuant to the charter within the number of days apart. So you all might be meeting with us more than once a month.
Okay, we got that covered?
I'm sorry?
We get paid more?
300% raise, sir.
So now we've heard the downside.
Yeah. So that's covered. One other thing that we're going to add again to the agenda is, are there any other issues, thoughts, ideas, or anything that anybody else is going to propose or want to discuss?
This is for the charter amendments.
Charter amendments, not everything else.
I understand that maybe some people might not be happy with the cutoff point, and some people might want to bring up other proposed charter amendments. You understand that we'll still be on the deadline because we have to have these public hearings. By the charter, we can't not have them. So, but we're going to give you an opportunity right now, if you need a 2-minute break or something like that, to think about it. If you want to see something else go to the charter or be proposed for another charter amendment, this is your opportunity to do that.
The only thing that I have is if we get to the end of this process and we decide to do nothing, I think as almost every charter commission has done prior to us, I think it's worth having a discussion. Is this body in having a county charter necessary, or do we just revert back to statute, because that's essentially what we are governed under today, without any charter changes.
Well, I think the last charter was the one that they had votes, but they could not get the correct amount of votes to move any items forward. There was a charter with property appraiser Caldwell that resulted in a lot of changes. And there were other changes in between that actually did not make it past the board. They were proposals, but before you all became a commission and could actually put items on the ballot, they were proposed, but the board said, no, we're not moving that item forward. So there were other proposed charter moves, but that's actually what happened.
Ron?
I might have misunderstood Andrew. Just presuming that we propose no changes doesn't mean that the charter is a failure and we should get rid of it just because we don't propose any changes.
It just means that in 8 years, there's going to be another one.
The committee felt the need to move forward. It doesn't mean the charter is ineffective.
That's correct.
I took what Andrew just
Eric?
said. So I took what Andrew said, maybe the commission is no longer useful, is what I, maybe you're not understanding.
Yeah, and this is not to say that I don't find value. I mean, I'm here, I value my time, so I value this process. But if we've gone through this process and we continue to hit roadblocks, I think at the end, if we get to the same part, nothing's happened, part of our discussion should just simply be, is this process here, where's the broken part? Do we need to do something to fix it? Or do we decide that we're just so happy with how things are working today in the county government that we don't need changes? And if that's the case, then it's...
However, in another 8 years, there's going to be a different group of people here that are going to think differently and have different thoughts and different ideas.
Well, I brought forth a couple ideas that I thought, just from this is the second charter commission I've been on. I've been involved in different county boards for 30 years now, and I didn't see anybody want to make any difference, any changes here to try to make it more effective. To me, that was extremely disappointing. The bar is too high. It's obvious the bar is too high. If you can't get over it to get anything on the ballot, then to me, the voting needed to be changed.
Well, we had a chance to do that.
I know, and we didn't want to make any changes in it, and so the reason it's a failure is because we're unwilling to make changes in it.
And that might be. You know, in 8 years, there's going to be a different group of people here, and some of us might be here, some of us might not, but they've always got that opportunity. Ron?
No, I don't know that we're unwilling to do so. It's just that it has to make sense to do so. I'm not willing to make a change just for the sake of making a change so that we can pat ourselves on the back and say we made a change. If it makes sense, I'm all for it. But I got to hear it all out and know what it's all about and how it's going to impact the county and county government and also all of us as citizens before I'm willing to say, sure, let's just go do that. I want to know, because we have a responsibility to vet that thoroughly, not just make a change because we have to have a work product.
Well, Ron, it's pretty easy math to see that it's easier to get 10 votes than it is 12 votes.
Anybody else have a comment, thoughts?
I think the citizens in the county should have the opportunity every 8 years to take a look at this, make changes, propose changes. Just because we're not making a change today, or we didn't make one 8 years ago, doesn't mean it might not be necessary in the past, or in the future. And if we go away from the charter review system, there is no going back without a state bill, without a local bill at the state legislature, correct?
Well, no, you'd have to redraft the charter and it'd have to go back for election and all that.
Okay, so it's a tough process to get back if we ever got rid of it.
Right, so again, any other topics, anything else that anybody wants the Charter Review Commission to discuss, review, take up as a topic? No? Okay, then we're all done. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Or second.
When is the next meeting?